In a quaint little town, nestled amidst rolling hills, lived a cobbler named Thomas. Thomas was a simple man, his days filled with the rhythmic tapping of hammer on leather. His tiny workshop, though humble, echoed with a melody that warmed the hearts of all who passed by. It was the sound of Thomas singing merrily as he worked, his voice filled with a contentment that was infectious. Each stitch he sewed, each sole he repaired, was done with a joyous heart. Thomas didn't have much, but he found happiness in the simplicity of his life. He appreciated the warmth of the sun, the laughter of children playing, and the simple pleasure of a meal shared with his family. His happiness was a testament to the fact that joy is not found in possessions, but in the way we choose to see the world. Thomas's hands were rough and calloused, a testament to years of dedicated craftsmanship. His tools, though worn, were meticulously cared for, each one holding a story of its own. The townsfolk adored Thomas, not just for his skill, but for his unwavering kindness and generosity. He often repaired shoes for those who couldn't afford to pay, his heart as generous as his smile. His family would visit him in the workshop, filling the space with laughter and love. Thomas took great joy in teaching his children the art of cobbling, passing down his knowledge with pride. In the evenings, they would gather around the dinner table, sharing stories and dreams. As the sun set, Thomas would often stand by the window, watching the sky change colors, feeling a deep sense of peace. The town at dusk, with its warm lights and gentle hum of life, was a reflection of Thomas's own heart. He would close his shop with a contented sigh, knowing that he had done his best for the day. And as he lay down to sleep, the melody of his day's work would lull him into a restful slumber. With the dawn, Thomas would rise again, ready to greet another day with the same joy and dedication. His song, a simple yet profound tune, would spread through the town, reminding everyone that true happiness lies in the simple, everyday moments. And so, Thomas's legacy lived on, not in grand monuments or riches, but in the hearts of those who heard his song and felt its warmth. Not far from Thomas's humble abode stood a grand manor, home to the wealthy merchant, Mr. Cavendish. Mr. Cavendish had amassed a fortune through his business ventures. His coffers overflowed with gold, and his house was adorned with the finest silks and treasures from distant lands. Yet behind his facade of wealth and prosperity, Mr. Cavendish harbored a deep unhappiness. His brow was perpetually furrowed with worry, his heart heavy with anxieties. The weight of his wealth, rather than bringing him joy, seemed to press down on him like a heavy cloak. He was forever consumed by the fear of losing what he had, of his riches vanishing like dust in the wind. Sleep eluded him, and his days were filled with a restless discontent. One particularly bright morning, as Mr. Cavendish sat by his window, lost in his melancholic thoughts, a sound reached his ears. It was a melody so full of life, so brimming with genuine happiness, that it cut through the gloom that had settled over him. He looked out his window and saw a sight that both puzzled and intrigued him. It was Thomas, the cobbler, singing merrily as he worked on a pair of worn-out shoes. The sight of such pure joy, such unadulterated contentment in someone who seemingly had so little, sparked a flicker of curiosity in Mr. Cavendish's troubled heart. He decided to seek out the cobbler, hoping to unravel the secret of his happiness. Mr. Cavendish, his brow still creased with worry, approached Thomas and inquired about the source of his evident joy. He had been observing Thomas for some time, noticing the cobbler's unwavering cheerfulness despite his modest means. "You seem so happy," he remarked, "despite having so little." Mr. Cavendish, a man of considerable wealth, couldn't fathom how someone with so few material possessions could radiate such contentment. Thomas, pausing in his work, looked up at the wealthy merchant, a gentle smile gracing his lips. His hands, calloused from years of labor, rested momentarily as he prepared to share his secret. "Happiness, kind sir," he replied, "is not found in the abundance of possessions, but in the contentment of one's heart. It's about finding joy in the little things, the everyday moments that often go unnoticed. I have all that I need, a roof over my head, food on my table, and the love of my family. These are the true treasures of life, the ones that bring genuine happiness and fulfillment. What more could a man ask for?" Thomas's eyes sparkled with sincerity as he spoke, his words resonating deeply with Mr. Cavendish. "Mr. Cavendish, skeptical yet intrigued, found himself drawn to the cobbler's simple wisdom. He had always believed that happiness was tied to wealth and success, but Thomas's perspective was challenging that notion. Could it be, he wondered, that true happiness lay not in the pursuit of wealth, but in the appreciation of life's simple blessings? The idea was both foreign and fascinating to him. He decided to put the cobbler's words to the test. Over the next few weeks, Mr. Cavendish began to engage in simple tasks that he had previously overlooked. He spent time with his family, took walks in nature, and even tried his hand at gardening. To his surprise, he found a sense of peace and joy that he had never experienced before. The simple pleasures of life, which he had once deemed insignificant, were now the source of his greatest happiness. Mr. Cavendish returned to Thomas, a newfound lightness in his step. "Thank you," he said, "for showing me that true joy comes from within." The cobbler smiled, knowing that his simple wisdom had made a profound impact. That evening, Mr. Cavendish returned to Thomas's workshop, a small pouch concealed within his velvet cloak. "I want to test something," he declared, handing the cobbler the pouch. "Take this," he urged, "and tell me if it brings you happiness." Thomas, his brow furrowed in confusion, hesitantly opened the pouch. His eyes widened in astonishment as they fell upon a pile of gleaming gold coins. He had never seen so much wealth in his life. Mr. Cavendish, his gaze fixed on the cobbler's face, watched intently for his reaction. Section 6. The Weight of Riches. The days that followed were a stark contrast to the cobbler's previously joyous life. The once lively songs that had filled his workshop were replaced by an unsettling silence. The sparkle of contentment that had once danced in his eyes was now overshadowed by a cloud of worry. The gold, which Mr. Cavendish had believed would be a source of happiness, had instead become a heavy burden on Thomas's heart. He found himself consumed by anxieties he had never known before. He worried about theft, about losing the gold, about how this newfound wealth would change his life and the lives of his loved ones. The simple joys that had once filled his days now seemed distant and unattainable. Section 7. Returning to peace. One evening, as the sun began its descent, casting long shadows across the cobblestone streets, Thomas made his way to Mr. Cavendish's manor. His steps were heavy, his heart burdened with a weight that had nothing to do with the pouch of gold he clutched in his hand. He returned the pouch to Mr. Cavendish, his voice heavy with a newfound understanding. "Thank you, kind sir," he said, "but this gold is not for me. It has brought me nothing but worry and unhappiness." He explained how the gold had robbed him of his peace of mind, how it had turned his once joyful existence into a tapestry of anxieties. Section 8. The True Measure of Wealth. Mr. Cavendish listened intently, his heart heavy with a mixture of surprise and newfound enlightenment. He had always believed that his vast fortune was the ultimate source of happiness and fulfillment. Yet, as he listened to the humble cobbler recount his life story, he felt a stirring within him, a questioning of his long-held beliefs. The cobbler spoke of days filled with hard work, but also with laughter, love, and a sense of purpose. He had experienced both poverty and riches, and found true contentment only in the simplicity of his former life. Mr. Cavendish couldn't help but compare his own life, filled with opulence but often devoid of genuine joy. "I understand now," Mr. Cavendish murmured, a sense of clarity washing over him. It was as if a veil had been lifted, revealing the true essence of happiness. It wasn't the gold, the mansions, or the luxury cars that brought fulfillment, but the simple, everyday moments that he had overlooked. True wealth is not measured in gold, but in the contentment of one's heart. This realization brought a profound sense of peace to Mr. Cavendish. He began to see the world through a different lens, one that valued experiences over possessions and relationships over riches. He realized that his pursuit of material possessions had blinded him to the simple joys that life had to offer. The laughter of children, the beauty of a sunset, the warmth of a genuine smile. These were the true treasures he had been missing. He had been so focused on accumulating more that he had failed to appreciate the preciousness of what he already had. The cobbler's story had opened his eyes to a new way of living, one that embraced simplicity and found joy in the little things. Mr. Cavendish knew that from this moment on, his life would be different. he would seek out the true measure of wealth, not in his bank account, but in the richness of his experiences and the depth of his relationships. Section 9. A lesson learned. From that day forward, Mr. Cavendish made a conscious effort to simplify his life. He shared his wealth with those less fortunate, finding joy in acts of kindness and generosity. He made time for his loved ones, cherishing the moments they shared together. The tale of the cobbler and the merchant serves as a timeless reminder that true happiness is not found in the relentless pursuit of material wealth, but in the appreciation of life's simple blessings and the contentment of one's heart. It is a reminder that the richest life is often the one lived with the fewest material possessions, but the greatest appreciation for the intangible gifts that truly make life worth living.